Tonight, when it gets dark, you'll probably turn on a light. Maybe you'll scroll your phone. Maybe you'll watch something on TV. Maybe you'll keep the lights on until it's past midnight. You won't even think about it. But here's something worth thinking about. For almost all of human history, none of that was possible. No electricity, no light bulbs, no candles for most of it. Just darkness. Real, complete, total darkness. The kind where you literally cannot see your own hand in front of your face. And for more than 300,000 years, every human being who ever lived had to face that darkness every single night. So what did they actually do? What happened when the sun went down and the world went dark? The answer is fascinating. And when you hear it, you might start to understand why so many people today can't seem to get a good night's sleep. Let's go back, all the way back. Before we talk about what ancient humans did at night, we need to talk about what night actually meant for them. It meant danger. I mean, real, serious, life-ending danger. The animals that hunted early humans, big cats, hyenas, wolves, were built for the dark. Their eyes worked perfectly at night. They could see clearly when everything around them was black. They could smell humans from far away. They were fast, quiet, and deadly. Early humans had none of those advantages. Our eyes are terrible in the dark. We're slow compared to most predators, and we make noise. So what did early humans do when the sun went down? They did exactly what other primates still do today. They climbed trees. Every night before fire, your ancestors went up. They climbed as high as they safely could, found a strong fork between two branches, built a rough nest out of leaves and sticks, and held on until morning. Not because it was comfortable, because the ground was where you become a prey. Think about that for a second. Every single night, up a tree, holding on, listening to the sounds below in the dark, hoping nothing found you. That was human life for a very long time, and then everything changed. The oldest solid proof we have of humans using fire comes from a cave in South Africa called Wonderwork Cave. That evidence is roughly 1 million years old. And fire did not just keep people warm. Fire completely changed what night meant for human beings. Here's how it worked. Campfire pushes back the darkness in a circle, about 30 feet in every direction. Inside that circle of light, predators stay away, not because they physically can't enter, but because fire means something unpredictable is nearby, something that burns, something dangerous. Researchers who have studied hunter-gatherer communities alive today, people still living close to the original human way of life, have confirmed this. People who walk away from the fire at night are significantly more likely to be attacked by predators, even today. The fire circle is still real protection. So for the first time in human history, people could sleep on the ground. They didn't have to climb trees anymore. They didn't have to hold on through the night praying nothing found them up there. They could sit, they could talk, they could rest, they could breathe. But fire gave humans something even bigger than safety. It gave them time. Before the fire, when the sun went down, the day was over. There was nothing useful you could do in complete darkness. That meant losing anywhere from 8 to 12 hours every single day to just waiting for the sun to come back. Fire added 2 to 4 extra hours to every single evening. That might not sound like much, but multiply that across thousands of generations, and those extra hours changed what it meant to be human. So now ancient humans had something they had never had before. A safe place to sit after dark, warmth, light time. What did they do with it? An anthropologist named Polly Wiesner spent years studying a community in the Kalahari Desert in Africa, a group called the Juhans. These are one of the last communities on Earth still living something close to the original human lifestyle. What she found was remarkable. She recorded what people talked about at different times of day. During the day, about 80% of conversations were practical. Who is hunting? Where? Which plants are ready to eat? How to handle a problem? Work talk. Survival talk. But at night, around the fire, everything shifted. At night, over 80% of conversations were stories. Not work, not planning. Stories. Tales about people in faraway places. Adventures. Funny moments that made the whole group burst out laughing. Myths about how the world began. Lessons wrapped inside stories so that children would remember them. Wiesner believed this is where human culture was actually born. Think about what that means. Before books. Before school. Before writing. The fire circle was how knowledge was passed from one generation to the next. A grandparent tell a child which plants would kill you. A hunter describing how a dangerous animal moves so that the next person would know what to watch for. A storyteller keeping alive the memory of a great flood that happened hundreds of years ago. The fire was the first classroom, the first library, the first stage, and hands stayed busy too. By firelight, people sharpened tools. They cleaned and softened animal hides. They repaired weapons that would be needed the next morning. The light was dim and flickering, but it was enough to work by. There were rituals too. Chanting, drumming, painting their skin with red ochre in the firelight. And they watched the stars, not just for beauty, but because the night sky was their calendar. It told them when the seasons were changing, when the animals would migrate, when to plant. The night sky was a tool, and they knew how to read it perfectly. Now here is where things get really surprising. We also assume that sleeping through the night, one long stretch of 7 or 8 hours, is just how human sleep works, that it's natural, normal, the way our bodies were built. But a historian named Roger Eckhart discovered something that turned that assumption completely upside down. He spent 16 years reading old documents, not textbooks. Real historical records, prayer books from the 1400s, court records, personal diaries, medical guides, letters that ordinary people wrote to each other. And everywhere he looked, across hundreds of years and many different cultures, he kept finding references to the same thing. First sleep and a second sleep. Over 500 separate references. Here is what those documents described. People went to sleep shortly after the sun went down. They slept for about 4 hours. Then they woke up naturally in the middle of the night. They stayed awake for 1 to 2 hours, and then they went back to sleep for another 4 hours until morning. That was it. That was normal human sleep. Not one long block, 2 shorter ones with a quiet window in the middle. And this was not considered strange or unusual. It was just what people did. The way we now say, I slept through the night, people back then would say between my first and second sleep. There are references to this pattern in Homer's Odyssey, written nearly 3,000 years ago. It was that normal. That is universal. So what did people do during that middle window? Records describe all kinds of things. Some people just lay quietly in the dark and let their thoughts settle, processing the day, working through a problem, sitting with a feeling until it made sense. Others got up and visited a neighbor. Knocking on someone's door at midnight was completely ordinary. Everyone was awake at the same time, so why not? Some people prayed. Some wrote. Parents checked on their children. Couples talked. A medical manual from the 1500s actually recommended this middle window as the best time for serious thinking and quiet reflection, when the mind was calm and free from the noise of the day. Now here's the strange part. Historians had been reading these references for centuries, but they couldn't make sense of them. They couldn't imagine that people had ever slept differently from how we sleep now. So they simply changed the translations. They rewrote the ancient words to match modern experience. The evidence was right there, hidden in plain sight, and nobody believed it until a scientist decided to test it. In 1992, a psychiatrist named Thomas Ware at the National Institute of Mental Health ran a simple but powerful experiment. He took a group of volunteers and removed all artificial light from their lives. Every night for 1 month, they experienced 14 hours of natural darkness, the same amount of darkness our ancestors lived with before firelight and candles extended the evening. And within just a few weeks, without anyone telling them to, every single participant shifted into the exact same sleep pattern. 4 hours of sleep, 1 to 3 hours of quiet wakefulness, then 4 more hours of sleep. Nobody suggested it, nobody scheduled it, their bodies just did it on their own, as if something buried deep inside them had been waiting for the chance to come back. But here's the part that really amazed the scientists. During that middle waking window, Ware measured the participants' hormone levels, and he found something unexpected. Their brains were full of a hormone called prolactin. Prolactin is the same hormone your brain produces during deep meditation. It creates a feeling of deep calm, of peace, of quiet alertness without tension or stress. The volunteers described the experience in similar ways: peaceful, slow, reflective. Like being fully awake, but without any of the urgency or noise of daytime thinking. It was not just a gap in sleep, it was its own separate state of human consciousness. A unique experience that had been part of human life for hundreds of thousands of years. And most people alive today will never feel it, because we eliminated it without ever knowing it existed. So how did we lose all of this? It didn't happen all at once. It happened slowly, piece by piece, over about 300 years. In the 1600s, cities in Europe started putting up street lamps. Paris was one of the first. King Louis XIV wanted to reduce crime, so he lit the streets at night. For the first time, ordinary people could walk outside after dark and actually see where they were going. London followed. Then other cities. Candles got cheaper and easier to make. Then came gas lamps in the early 1800s, brighter and more reliable than anything before. And then in 1879, Thomas Edison made the electric light bulb available to the public. Within one human lifetime, the night that had shaped human beings for 300,000 years was simply gone. This small detail is worth pausing on. The word curfew comes from a French phrase, couvre-feu, which literally means cover the fire. In medieval towns, a bell would ring each evening telling people to put out or cover their flames. Not for safety reasons, because the night was supposed to be dark, because darkness was where night belonged. In many medieval European cities, walking outside after dark without a lantern was actually against the law. Night was considered suspicious, dangerous. It belonged to criminals and, people believed, to supernatural things. Most ordinary people feared the dark in a way that is very hard for us to understand today, and then we turned the lights on, and we forgot to be afraid. Here is what that cost us. The average person today is exposed to artificial light for 7 to 8 hours after the sun sets. That light, especially the blue light from phone and TV screens, tricks your brain. When light hits your eyes at 11 at night, your brain thinks it is still daytime. It slows down the release of melatonin, the hormone that tells your body it is time to sleep. Your sleep gets delayed, compressed, broken up. Researchers tested this with a simple experiment. They sent people camping for 1 week with no artificial light at all, just sunlight during the day and darkness at night. After just 1 week, every participant's body shifted. Their melatonin started rising at sunset the way it was always supposed to, 2 hours earlier than it had been before. 1 week of natural darkness. That was all it took for 300,000 years of programming to come back. So here is the big question. When you wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning and lie there in the dark, thoughts moving slowly through your head, the house quiet, nobody else awake, what if that is not a sleep problem? What if that is not insomnia? What if your body is actually doing exactly what it was built to do? Following a rhythm that goes back hundreds of thousands of years, one that your bright, busy, screen-filled modern life never told you about. For most of human history, the night was not empty. It was not wasted. Your ancestors climbed down from the trees when they finally had fire to protect them. They sat together in the warm glow of the flames and told stories that held their communities together. They worked quietly by firelight, sharpening tools, preparing for tomorrow, keeping things ready. They slept in 2 peaceful stretches with a calm and quiet window in between. And when that middle of the night wakefulness came, they didn't panic. They didn't reach for a screen. They just lay there or sat there in a state of deep peace that modern science has only recently been able to measure and that most of us will never get to feel. And above them, every single night was a sky so clear and so dark that the full band of the Milky Way stretched from one horizon to the other. Not something rare. Not something you had to travel to see. Just the sky. Just the ordinary night sky above their heads. We gave all of that up for the ability to keep the lights on. A light switch ended 300,000 years of human night. And most of us never even knew what we lost.